This is our time, bringing you the top stories at this hour. I'm Yulia Gorovaya in the studio. Hello. Last night, Russian occupiers launched a massive drone attack on the city of Bobrovitsia in the Chernihiv region. Industrial enterprises, as well as critical and transportation infrastructure, were damaged. More than 26,000 consumers in the Nizhyn district were left without electricity. In addition, train service was disrupted. According to the Chernihiv Regional Prosecutor's Office, there were no civilian casualties. Ukrainian air defense shot down 2/3 of the Russian drones that Moscow used to attack Ukrainian territory. Out of 65 attack UAVs of the Shahid, Garin, and other types, 46 drones were shot down or suppressed by electronic warfare systems. Ukrainian units repelled the Russian occupiers' air attack in the north, south, east, and center of the country. On the night of September 30th, Special Operations Forces units struck an expensive Russian air defense facility in occupied Crimea using drones. Specifically, the radar station of the S-400 Triumph surface-to-air missile system. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. They note that the radar station is, so to speak, the eyes of the SAM system. And without the observation and targeting element, the entire system loses its combat capability. The cost of one division of 4 vehicles of the surface-to-air missile system is approximately $625 million. 176 combat engagements were recorded on the front line over the past day. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the situation remains difficult but under control in the Pokrovsk direction. There, Ukrainian soldiers repelled 56 attacks by Russian occupiers in a single day. Another 37 enemy assaults were repelled in the Novopavlivka sector, 20 in the North Slobozhansk and Kursk directions, 16 in the Lyman sector, and 14 in Toretsk. The steadfast defenders are also holding their positions along the entire front line, inflicting significant losses on the enemy in both manpower and equipment.
The situation in the Pokrovsk direction, north of Pokrovsk, is very dynamic and changes very quickly every day. Nevertheless, this success of the armed forces of Ukraine allowed the President of Ukraine to demonstrate it to his American counterpart. We are not only defending ourselves, we are counterattacking. Yes, this is not a strategic counteroffensive. It's not about liberating Crimea tomorrow. This is operational tactical, but it is still an offensive. And it's working.
Ukrainian Defense Forces eliminated 970 Russian servicemen just in the past 24 hours. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the total losses of the Russian army have already exceeded 1,110,500 soldiers. In addition, for Russian tanks, 27 artillery systems, 1 multiple rocket launcher, as well as 90 units of enemy vehicles and special equipment were destroyed. Ukrainian intelligence eliminated a lieutenant colonel of the Russian National Guard and 2 of his fellow servicemen near the settlement of Tambukin, which is located in the Stavropol region of Russia. According to the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, the eliminated officer was the head of the Russian special unit Avangard and was on his way to a training ground, but never made it there. The main intelligence directorate reported that the operation was carried out on September 27th. The Caucasus Liberation Movement also took part in it. NATO supports the EU's drone wall initiative. This was announced today in Brussels by the Secretary-General of the Alliance, Mark Rutte, ahead of a meeting of the European Commission's board dedicated to defense issues. Rutte emphasized that while the alliance is still determining whether Russia deliberately attacked the airspace of Estonia and Poland, it is necessary to protect the skies.
We must defend our skies. That's why the initiative to use drones is both timely and necessary. After all, in the end, we can't spend millions of euros or dollars on missiles to destroy drones that only cost a few thousand. That's why we need a drone wall. But when it comes to Ukraine, that's our first line of defense. We help the Ukrainians because it's about our values, as well as our collective security, our first line of protection. It's absolutely crucial that they keep fighting and that we keep going. We continue to support them.
Moscow is analyzing statements from American officials about the possible transfer of Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine and strikes deep inside Russia. This was stated by Putin's press secretary Peskov. The Kremlin refrained from further comments, while the White House confirmed it. Washington is considering the possibility of transferring the missiles, and the U.S. President's Special Representative Keith Kellogg stated that Trump gave Ukraine the green light to use long-range weapons for strikes against targets on Russian territory. The attitude of the President of the United States toward Ukraine's security has changed. Now it is fair, noted President Volodymyr Zelensky. Irina Yusupova will continue on this topic.
The question of transferring American Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine remains open, said U.S. President's Special Representative Keith Kellogg in an interview with Fox News. He added that the decision will be made by the head of the White House. The host showed Kellogg a message from Donald Trump stating that Ukraine, with Europe's support, will be able to win back all its territories. She then clarified whether this means the possibility of strikes deep into Russian territory.
Considering what the President said, as well as Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio, I think the answer is yes. We need to use the capability to strike deep. There are no restrictions whatsoever.
Not long ago, President Trump spoke out against using Western weapons for strikes deep inside Russian territory. But if the previous restrictions are lifted, it means Kyiv gets additional options in planning operations. The Tomahawk is a high-precision, long-range missile capable of following the terrain and evading air defenses. They carry a powerful warhead and can be launched from various platforms. The appearance of such weapons in Kyiv's hands will force the Russian army to spread out its defenses and spend more resources on protecting its rear.
Tomahawk cruise missiles, which have a range of at least 1,500 miles, will be a significant upgrade to Ukraine's arsenal and will increase its ability to strike targets inside Russia, including Moscow, something the previous U.S. administration was unwilling to allow. Ukraine is already carrying out successful long-range attacks using its fleet of drones, especially against oil infrastructure targets. But Tomahawks would be a major step forward in military terms. From a publication by The Washington Post.
The political delivery of Tomahawk missiles would serve as proof of the strongest possible U.S. support for Kyiv and a demonstration of Washington's readiness to further pressure the Kremlin. After all, it's clear that ending the war against Ukraine, Putin has no intention of doing so.
Moscow wants to keep fighting, keep killing, and deserves only the harshest pressure from the world. The Kremlin benefits from continuing this war in terror as long as it has energy revenues and its shadow fleet operates. We will continue to strike back in order to deprive Russia of these opportunities to profit and to force it to the negotiating table. Everyone who wants peace should support President Trump's efforts and stop all Russian imports. The time for decisive action has long since come, and we are counting on a strong response from the U.S., Europe, the G7, and the G20. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Ukraine has significantly increased its capabilities to strike back at targets deep inside the Russian Federation. Ukrainian drones are attacking targets 1,000 kilometers from the front line. For example, on the night of September 29th, Neptune missiles struck the Elektrodedel plant in the Bryansk region. This enterprise is completely reoriented toward producing goods for weapons manufacturing.
The plant specializes in the production of electrical connectors and sockets, which are basic components for military equipment. Its products are used in missile control systems, aviation and space technology, tanks, armored personnel carriers, and other armored vehicles, as well as in communication systems and control devices. In fact, Elektrodedel is a part of the Russian military-industrial complex, without which the assembly and repair of modern Russian weapons would be disrupted. The plant produces tens of thousands of types of connectors, which are used in the closed electronic circuits of combat systems. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The supply of weapons and new partner sanctions against Russia. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones and missiles are effectively striking Russian oil refineries and military factories. And each such attack increases the pressure on the Kremlin.
The European Union is preparing a new package of sanctions against Russia, which will include tough restrictions in energy, financial services, and trade. This was announced by the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. According to her, a key element will be a ban on the import of Russian liquefied natural gas. Von der Leyen emphasized that the sanctions are having an effect and called for increased pressure on Moscow. At the same time, von der Leyen announced that the EU and Ukraine have agreed to allocate €2 billion for the development of drone production. She also put forward the idea of a reparations loan based on frozen Russian assets, which would be provided in tranches and partially used for purchases in Europe. The head of the European Commission noted that the €2 billion in aid will allow Ukrainians to scale up and fully realize their potential.
If we still believe that Ukraine is our first line of defense, then we should increase military assistance to Ukraine. That's why, specifically, we agreed with Ukraine that a total of €2 billion will now be spent on drones. This will give Ukrainians the opportunity to scale up and fully realize their potential. And, of course, it will also allow the EU to benefit from this technology.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky named the countries that financed weapons for the armed forces of Ukraine as part of the PWR initiative. This makes it possible to quickly purchase Patriot systems and other key American weapons. Since August, Ukraine's partners have financed several weapons packages. In particular, the Netherlands allocated $578 million as part of the first package. Denmark, Norway, and Sweden jointly allocated $495 million as part of the second package. Germany announced its readiness to finance the third package for $500 million. Canada will support the fourth package, also for $500 million.
The fifth and sixth packages are currently being coordinated with the American side. At present, Belgium, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Iceland, and Luxembourg have already announced their readiness to contribute to the upcoming fifth package. To provide $1 billion per month under the initiative in order to fully realize its potential. We are grateful to every partner for such important contributions. Together, we are strengthening our defense and bringing a just and lasting peace closer. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, and robotic complexes on the battlefield. These are no longer science fiction, but tools of modern warfare. Ukraine is among the leaders in the pace of implementing artificial intelligence in military developments. How automated systems operate on the front line and what is being prepared for deployment, watch more in our report.
This is the Catran X1 underwater drone, designed to operate in coastal areas. The platform conducts reconnaissance and patrols, providing cover for ships and units. Thanks to its modular design, it can deliver and launch FPV drones to strike equipment or important targets.
You can control the marine drone from anywhere in the world. Here is the pilot's mobile workstation. For example, you could be in Canada and control a drone in Crimea. This drone also has a long operational range. It is designed for a range of 1,500 kilometers. They are used on board. Artificial intelligence is used to assist with control, target identification, and guidance, as well as modes like fail-safe and much more.
This Ukrainian company is not showing its engineering solutions for the first time. These are used directly on the front lines. Among their latest developments are combat armored platforms capable of withstanding harsh frontline conditions. The newest addition is the armored vehicle MAC-L. It can be used to equip special units during combat, patrol, and peacekeeping operations.
The company has been working on creating the armored vehicle for a year. There are no direct analogs in Ukraine today, and a presentation will be held soon. The vehicle is unique because it's a monocoque. This is a highly off-road capable vehicle designed specifically for the needs of the Ukrainian Armed Forces today.
Another direction in defense technology is robotic systems that autonomously detect and neutralize mines. A system has also been developed that can remotely lay mines over an area.
This is already a remote chain-type mine-laying system for PTM mines. It can be loaded with 12 mines. The ground-based robotic system can drive out and lay mines completely remotely. Somewhere in the gray zone, where it would be dangerous for people to do this, it can do it with ease. Especially since 12 mines is really powerful.
Another area of technology is for rescue. This tracked robot is the first ground-based firefighting drone in Ukraine, and it's already being used by the armed forces and the state emergency service. It operates where it's too dangerous for people, right next to burning equipment, near ammunition depots, and at critical infrastructure sites. The robot is remotely controlled by an operator and can spray water or foam over dozens of meters.
The state emergency service has a problem when there are repeated strikes. You arrive at the scene to put out a fire. There could be a second missile. People are in danger. So, with this robot, it's operated remotely. You have the ability to drive up and fight the fire remotely from 200 meters away with this huge hose. In this case, you are safe.
Ukraine has become one of the leaders in implementing artificial intelligence during combat operations. Modern warfare has become a catalyst for technological development in this field. Algorithms are capable of processing large amounts of information, identifying targets, assisting in planning, and autonomously controlling drones.
Today, artificial intelligence has already become such a tool.
Today, artificial intelligence has become a rapidly developing and quite popular tool. Every day, new opportunities for its implementation are emerging. And unfortunately, because of the full-scale war, Ukraine today is the place where these technologies are being tested the most, which will probably open up new opportunities for us in the world, considering that we now have the greatest experience in implementing artificial intelligence both in warfare, in government services, and in many other areas.
In the past 2 years, more than 200 new defense tech solutions have appeared in Ukraine, a significant portion of them featuring artificial intelligence. Ukrainian companies are developing and managing to adapt to challenges that change daily due to the conditions of war. Yulia Bill, Volodymyr Dmitry from Lviv for Freedom TV channel.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the amount of the reparations loan to Ukraine, which will total 140 billion euros. In addition, according to her, the EU wants to use part of these loans to finance its own defense industry. The President of the European Commission made this statement before the start of the European Commission's Security Board meeting in Brussels. Von der Leyen outlined the specifics of the reparations loan mechanism for Ukraine.
The loan will not be dispersed all at once, but in tranches and under certain conditions. We will strengthen our defense industry by ensuring that part of the loan is used for purchases in Europe and with Europe. Importantly, the assets will not be confiscated. Ukraine must repay the loan if Russia pays reparations. The party at fault must be held accountable.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.